welcome back to Garden Studio. I'm Tessa Pinner, a designer and gardener in upstate South Carolina, Zone 8A. Today's video is the April installment of our monthly cottage garden tours, and I will be starting you out in the perfect spring vignette. Our path garden looks incredible for about 3 weeks, and this is one of them. So we'll start out there, cycle through the kitchen garden, the cutting garden. We'll circle around to a project in infancy, our orchard and meadow area that has been all dug up and looks like nothing but dirt. But hang with us, we have ideas of where it's going. And I will end with walking you through the process of creating a foraged floral arrangement, all gathered from right here in the garden. Welcome to the path garden. The essence of spring right here, with all the irises, the clematis, foxgloves, and the peonies that coincide for a glorious spring moment in April every year. The planting holds its structure very well the rest of the year, but right now is when it looks truly special. What does happen is the iris flop. So every year, it's never the same irises, but every year somebody be flopping. So generally, ooh, there's a lot going on in here. You can buy those little wire ring things, but this is another reason I like to have bamboo around, because for something that's so temporary, wow, that's tough down there. Like an iris, this bloom stalk will be done in a few days. I like to just make an X with my bamboo, hold it up until it's done blooming if it's flopping in the path. Or option B would be just go ahead and cut this and take it in the house, because you won't be mad about having it in there. There we go. It's really just some artful proppage. And then we can walk through here without hitting any iris blooms. We also redid a little splash zone here that has gotten a lot of use already from the boys, because they stand right here and they throw all manner of things right into the fountain. Legos, trucks, dirt, themselves, and water goes everywhere. And we found that this was ending up as kind of a mud pit. And now it's bluestone, laid in a very simple pattern, will allow the plants to creep back up to the edge so that we don't have mulch coming over. But for now, though it be not perfect, it is much improved from what it was. I feel like a teacher with my pointer. This vine right here, I don't think I have mentioned the name of it yet, and it is called Akebia chocolate vine. It has these really sort of strange looking pod fruits that are a grayish purple and very beautiful but not too showy purple flowers from about the middle to the end of March. Now, this one is very crazy. It has done extremely well, so well in fact that we have birds that nest in the vine every year. It likes part shade, and this is the east side of this building, so it gets morning sun, and then the sun passes over and it doesn't get hit with anything after about noon, which is its perfect environment. It is evergreen. Also good to note, if you are looking for an evergreen shade vine, Akebia is one of your few options. However, let this be a cautionary tale to you if you are the kind of person who likes extreme order, because it is not a very orderly vine. It likes to go everywhere. So not my recommendation for anything other than kind of a scrambly outbuilding. Would be great on a trellis or an arbor, that kind of thing. The kitchen garden is definitely in a spring to summer transition right now. You can see this bed is chock full of kale and spinach and snapdragon and peas, and these things are in their glory, but also starting to bolt. we've had our first 80-degree days over the last week or two, and the greens hit that temperature and they just start to quietly and politely expire. They're just done at that point. So I have more of those things over here. I have been thanking my past self for succession sowing because the bed in the L that's right behind us, this over here is looking so much worse because the plants in here are about 3 weeks ahead those you just saw. So these are doomed to all come out this week and be switched for tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. But the fact that we're still eating lettuce is due to staggering the sowings of the lettuce and kale so that we eat salad for a longer amount of time. But in the meantime, I'll definitely still be gathering salad. And lest you think you need to use scissors to gather your salad, all you need is your fingers. It's very easy. April is always a busy month in the cutting garden, and this month was no exception. This was the biggest change this season. I had it all full, by accident it turns out, of swamp sunflowers, which if you know anything about those, I planted a very innocuous about 8-inch clump of them 2 years ago, and within that time span, they had bullied their way to take up almost the entire bed space. This is a very good lesson for me, as someone who should know better, on paying a little more attention to the plant habit when you are putting it somewhere. It is now gone to the farthest reaches of the garden where it can romp to its heart's content should it survive the transplant. But for now, I suddenly had all the space, and I had those trays of seedlings, which I had updated you on back in March, that I was nursing along, and they did so well. I ended up with lots and lots, dozens upon dozens of healthy seedlings that I planted throughout the garden. In each bed, there are pockets, and this is a kind of English way of doing a perennial border or patch, where you have mostly perennials and then you have open areas that you keep for annuals, so that you have something that you get to play with, switch out every year, and you also get the amount of blooms. Annuals tend to bloom all summer versus a window of bloom that perennials have. So it's a little bit like having the one soprano who sings all the way through and carries everybody else, and then the rest of it can do its thing. This is just a way of having interest all summer. So that's what I've done. These stakes right here are for dahlia tubers. They will be emerging very shortly. But the key that I have also learned the hard way with dahlias, you have to put the stake in the ground at the time of planting the tuber. Otherwise, you think, oh, I'll do it later. But unfortunately, later comes the plant is flopping over, and then when you go to try to stake it, you're likely to actually spear the tuber, damage the roots of the plant. So the pro tip is do it at the beginning. So here I am doing things the right way. I'm feeling actually quite proud. The roses, this is the time of year that the roses just bloom their heads off, and there are no Japanese beetles or June bugs. They're called June bugs for a reason, because that's when they come out and do their dirty work. But for now, the roses are unmolested. They're looking gorgeous, and they smell just incredible. This is an argument for the Old English style rose with the big open face. It just lets all that beautiful scent out, and the bees love them. We have Baptisia blooming, peonies are blooming, irises are blooming. You can see more seedlings all down here. And I like a healthy mix. I think of myself a little bit like a benevolent governess when it comes to these gardens here, because I keep them just enough in check. Not a very tight rope. Like, you can look closely. I have clover in here. I have the occasional dandelion. And you know what? That's fine with me. I just planted these seedlings a couple of days ago and have had to water them extremely often, both because they are just brand new, tiny little plants, and also because there was nothing to seal in the soil moisture. So the first thing after planting something like this is, of course, get it watered in and then immediately seal mulch to help the soil retain the moisture. That will mean I water it less, and that will suppress weeds that want to immediately come colonize any open ground. I don't generally have to do a ton of mulching in this garden because so much of the ground is covered at all times with tons of different kinds of plants. When I disturb an area like this and clear the ground completely, it's a y'all come for weeds, so mulching is essential. Even though this area here is irregular, it's almost a quarter circle, like a piece of a pie with the rounded side. I still planned it to have an axis that meets in the middle and tunnels your eye up towards this end. And of course, because I set you up for something, I needed to give a reward at the end. So for a couple of years, I have been trying to land on the perfect showstopper plant to put in this planter, and this is my latest attempt. This is a Grace smoke tree, and it starts out with this incredibly interesting purple foliage, and it will get big. So over time, it really will be a tree, depending on how I prune it coming out of this planter. But it has these sort of floaty flowers. They get even more dramatic towards end of summer, and then in the fall it has bright orange fall color, which it's a really wonderful 3-season plant. Doesn't do much in the winter, but I thought for the drama in the other 3 I would go with it. I'm happy with this choice so far. This area over here is probably the biggest change in the last month. We've had the graders in to put in a couple of drain lines and to reshape the earth into some fun mounds and a little bit of interesting contour, direct the water, and to give us just a really fun environment back in this space. I'll probably do it a whole episode or episodes on the process of the design and layout, but for now, suffice it to say, this is the biggest area under development. The paths, which are outlined with the flags, will be grass. The mounds will be a mostly native perennial wildflower and grass mixture, and over time we'll layer in edibles like small fruit trees, shrubs, and vines.
Even though I do have what I call a cutting garden, I also consider my entire property fair game when it comes to cutting flowers for the house. So I include the sped up version of where I was cutting from just to illustrate this. I rated the kitchen garden, of course the cutting garden, path garden, and out front where I have more irises and a really fabulous climbing rose. But at different times of the year, I would be cutting from all different spots. So I think going forward in these monthly garden tour videos, I plan to do an arrangement every month as an essential way of bringing that enjoyment of the garden inside where I can appreciate it all the time. The more volume you have in your vase, the more dramatic you'll be able to make your arrangement, especially with the help of a supportive material like chicken wire. So I have a roll of chicken wire in my barn, and I just got it and chopped a little piece off the corner and folded it up into a sort of ball shape and stuffed that into the bottom of the urn. And this gives me something to put my stems into that will allow me to choose the angle. And this is really important so they all just don't succumb straight to gravity and flop sideways. This allows just a much more open and airy arrangement.
I just love having fresh flowers. Thanks so much for watching this month's cottage garden tour. My tasks for the month of May are as follows: to complete a seasonal switch out of my kitchen garden from the winter and spring greens to the summer vegetables, to continue seeding the orchard meadow, and to just generally keep all the things watered as the temperatures heat up. I hope this arrangement of all foraged materials inspires you to do something similar in your own garden. Happy gardening.